Heal your mind while you sleep. He had not dreamed in 3 years. Not in the way he used to dream, the vivid, sometimes strange, sometimes luminous experiences that he had once woken from with the specific feeling of having been somewhere real. 3 years ago, those dreams had stopped. Not gradually. Almost overnight. Replaced by something that was not sleep in any genuine sense of the word but a kind of suspended exhaustion, a nightly descent into a gray, shallow, restless nowhere from which he emerged each morning more depleted than he had been when he lay down. He was a psychiatrist. He understood sleep, theoretically, with the precision of someone who had spent years studying the neuroscience of it. He knew about sleep architecture, about the cycling of sleep stages, about the specific functions that each stage performed in the maintenance of cognitive and emotional health. He knew, in the clinical sense, exactly what was happening to him. He could not fix it. He had tried everything that the clinical literature recommended. The sleep hygiene protocols. The cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. The careful management of light exposure and room temperature and the timing of meals. He had tried, briefly and with the specific embarrassment of a clinician becoming a patient, the pharmacological options. None of it produced the thing he needed in the form he needed it. The thing he needed was not a better sleep environment. Not a more optimized bedtime routine. Not the pharmacological suppression of the arousal systems that were preventing the descent into genuine restorative sleep. The thing he needed was a different relationship with his own mind. A different interior condition, different from the chronic, low-grade, perpetually activated interior state that the previous 3 years of professional overextension and personal loss and accumulated unprocessed difficulty had produced, that would allow the mind, in the hours of darkness, to do what the mind in genuine sleep is designed to do. To heal itself. His name was Daniel. He was 47 years old. And the specific path he found toward the sleep he had lost did not begin with any of the clinical protocols he had already tried. It began with an evening conversation with an elderly patient who was dying, slowly, with the specific grace of someone who had made a genuine peace with what was coming, and who said something to Daniel during one of their final sessions that Daniel had not expected from anyone in any context. The patient said, "The reason I sleep well now, after all my years of terrible sleep, is that I stopped carrying the day into the night with me. I learned to put it down before I lay down. Not to forget it. To finish it. To give it genuine completion before the darkness came and to trust, in the darkness, that the mind I carry into sleep will do for me what I cannot do for myself while I am awake." The patient had been reading the Stoics for 30 years. He had been practicing, in the quiet way of someone who had found something useful and had simply continued using it, the specific evening disciplines that the Stoics had developed for exactly the challenge Daniel was facing. The discipline of genuine completion. Of honest processing. Of releasing the day with real completeness rather than taking it into the night as unfinished business that the sleeping mind would be required to process in the chronic activation that was preventing genuine sleep. Daniel listened. He took notes. He had never taken notes in this room before. He was the clinician, not the patient, and the taking of notes felt significant in a way that he did not fully understand at the time. He went home that evening. He sat with the notes for an hour. He tried, for the first time, the specific practice that the patient had described. Not as a protocol. As a genuine engagement with the question of what he was carrying into the night and what would happen if he chose, deliberately and honestly, to put it down before the night arrived. 6 weeks later, he dreamed again. Not a dramatic dream. Not a significant dream. A dream so ordinary in its content that he would not have remembered it except for the specific quality of the waking from it, the specific feeling of having been somewhere genuinely real, of having been genuinely away from the waking world and genuinely returned from it with something the returning gave him. He had slept. Genuinely. For the first time in 3 years. Not because the sleep environment had changed. Not because the pharmacology had finally worked. Because the interior condition with which he had entered the sleep had changed. Because he had learned, from a dying man who had read the Stoics for 30 years, that the mind's capacity to heal itself during sleep depends fundamentally on the quality of the interior that is brought to the sleeping. This is what we are exploring today. Completely. With the depth and the practical honesty that this subject genuinely deserves. This is Stoic Ascension. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on your notifications because every single video here is built for exactly this level of genuine depth and genuine application. The philosophy, the neuroscience, the practice, and the complete transformation of your relationship with the hours of darkness that constitute a third of your life. What comes after this builds directly on everything you are about to hear. Do not miss what is coming. What your mind actually does while you sleep, and why this changes everything. Most people understand sleep as rest. As the absence of waking activity. As the period during which the body and mind are offline, recovering from the demands of the day, storing energy for the demands of the next. This understanding is not entirely wrong. But it is so incomplete that the incompleteness constitutes a fundamental misunderstanding of what sleep actually is and what it actually does. Sleep is not the absence of mental activity. It is a different kind of mental activity, one that is in many ways more sophisticated, more fundamental, and more consequential for the quality of conscious waking life than anything the waking mind produces. During sleep, specifically during the specific stages of sleep that have specific functions in the architecture of a full night's rest, the mind is doing work that it cannot do while conscious. Work that is foundational to emotional health, cognitive function, memory consolidation, creativity, and the specific capacity to engage with the challenges of waking life without being overwhelmed by their accumulated weight. The specific work that is most directly relevant to what we are exploring today is the emotional processing that occurs primarily during the sleep stages where dreaming is most vivid and most intense. During this sleep, the mind does something remarkable. It replays the emotional content of the day's experiences, the difficult conversations, the unresolved conflicts, the experiences of genuine difficulty and genuine loss and genuine threat, but in a specific neurochemical context that is fundamentally different from the waking context in which those experiences originally occurred. In the waking state, difficult emotional experiences are processed in the presence of the specific stress neurochemistry that the experiences themselves produce. The cortisol, the adrenaline, the full physiological activation of the threat response system. This neurochemical environment is the enemy of genuine emotional resolution. It keeps the experience hot. Keeps it present. Keeps the body and mind in the activated state that prevents the distance necessary for genuine processing and genuine integration. During certain stages of sleep, this stress neurochemistry is dramatically reduced. The specific chemicals that maintain the heat of acute stress experience are largely absent. And the mind, now able to engage with the content of difficult experience without the physiological activation that originally accompanied it, can do something in this state that the waking mind in the presence of that activation cannot do. It can process without being overwhelmed. Can integrate without being re-traumatized. Can find, in the material of difficult experience, the meaning and the resolution and the distance that the activated waking state consistently prevents. This is why people say that things look different in the morning. Not metaphorically. Literally. The mind has done work during the intervening sleep, specific, neurobiologically real work, that changes the relationship between the person and the difficult experience. That moves the experience from the raw, hot, immediately present state in which it was first encountered to the processed, integrated, emotionally metabolized state that the morning brings. This is the healing that happens in sleep. Not the healing of wounds on the body, though the body's own repair processes are also concentrated in the sleeping hours. The healing of the accumulated emotional weight of experience. The specific processing of what the waking day has delivered that cannot be fully processed while the waking neurochemistry is present. And here is what Daniel discovered, and what the Stoics understood in their particular philosophical way, and what the neuroscience has confirmed from its particular empirical direction. The quality of this healing depends fundamentally on the quality of the interior that is brought to the sleeping. The mind that enters sleep carrying chronic activation, the unprocessed resentments, the unexamined anxieties, the habitual ruminations, the specific interior tension of a person who has not genuinely completed the day before lying down, this mind does not get the full benefit of the healing that sleep makes possible. Because the chronic activation that the unprocessed interior maintains is partially incompatible with the specific sleep stages in which the deepest healing occurs. The mind in chronic activation cannot fully descend into the neurological state that genuine emotional processing requires. It remains partially alert, partially engaged with the very content that it needs distance from in order to genuinely process. The mind that enters sleep having genuinely completed the day, having processed what needs processing, released what can be released, honestly examined what needs examination, and brought itself to a genuine state of settled completion before the darkness arrives, this mind has access to the full architecture of restorative sleep. Can descend fully into the stages where the genuine work happens. Can do the work that only the sleeping mind can do, with the full capacity that the sleeping mind has for doing it. This is why the Stoic evening practices are not peripheral to the question of healing the mind during sleep. They are central to it. They are the specific preparation of the interior that determines what the sleeping mind will have access to when the sleeping begins. The Stoic understanding of sleep and the mind, what the ancient philosophy knew. The Stoics did not have neuroscience. But they had something that in many ways produces more directly applicable wisdom, centuries of careful attention to the actual lived experience of human beings navigating the full range of what life delivers. And from this careful attention, they developed a specific understanding of sleep and its relationship to the quality of the waking mind that the neuroscience has confirmed from a completely different direction. They understood that the quality of sleep was directly determined by the quality of the interior that was brought to it. Not by the external conditions of the sleeping environment, though those were relevant. By the internal conditions of the mind and spirit at the moment of lying down. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the relationship between the day's practice and the night's rest with a clarity that suggests direct experiential knowledge rather than theoretical understanding. He described the person who had genuinely engaged with the day, who had been honest in their assessments, courageous in their choices, just in their treatment of others, disciplined in their management of their own interior, as finding in the night a specific quality of genuine rest that the person who had not so engaged did not find. Not as a reward for virtue. As the natural consequence of having genuinely completed what the day required. Of having met the day with enough genuine presence and genuine engagement that the day, when it ended, was genuinely ended. Not continuing in the mind as unfinished business and unresolved tension and unprocessed experience. Seneca wrote extensively about the evening practice of honest self-examination, the specific discipline of reviewing the day with patient fairness before releasing it into the night, as foundational to what he described as genuine peace of mind. He understood that the person who carries the day's unresolved contents into the night is not actually resting during the night. They are continuing the day's unfinished work in the less productive and more exhausting context of disrupted sleep. He wrote, "Let us put an end to the day before we put an end to the waking." Not as a poetic flourish. As a specific practical instruction. Finish the day genuinely, honestly, with real completion of what needs completing and real release of what needs releasing, before you lie down. Because lying down without this completion is not the end of the day. It is the continuation of it in the darkness. Epictetus understood the relationship between the interior life and the quality of rest from the specific angle of his philosophy of the dichotomy of control. He observed that the person who has made genuine peace with the lying, who has genuinely released what lives on the uncontrollable side and genuinely invested in what lives on the controllable side, finds in the end of the day a specific natural completeness that the person at war with what cannot be changed does not find. The person who is at war with what cannot be changed carries the war into the night. Because the war has no natural completion. There is always more to argue with, more to resist, more to insist should be different from how it is. And the mind at war does not rest. It continues the war in the specific, exhausting, sleep-disrupting form of the ruminating, anxious, churning night that most people in chronic interior conflict experience. The person who has made genuine peace with the line finds in the natural end of the day the natural end of the engagement with it. What could be done has been done. What could not be controlled has been released. The day is finished in the specific, complete sense that allows the night to be genuinely night, genuinely rest, genuinely repair, genuinely the healing that only the sleeping mind can perform. What prevents the mind from healing during sleep? The specific obstacles. Before we explore the specific practices that enable the mind's healing during sleep, we have to be completely honest about the specific interior conditions that most consistently prevent it. Because these conditions are common, are deeply embedded in most people's daily experience, and are almost entirely created and maintained by the quality of the interior life rather than by anything external. Unprocessed emotional content from the day. The most immediately significant obstacle to genuine restorative sleep is the specific accumulation of emotional content that the day has produced and that the person has not genuinely processed before attempting to sleep. Difficult conversations that ended without genuine resolution. Interpersonal tensions that were managed rather than addressed. Moments of genuine difficulty, professional failures, relational frictions, experiences of genuine disappointment or loss, that were survived but not processed. Emotional experiences that were pushed through rather than genuinely felt and genuinely integrated. This unprocessed content does not disappear when the day ends. It remains in the interior, active, unresolved, still requiring the engagement that the day's pressing demands prevented. And when the person lies down, the silence and the darkness that was supposed to be rest becomes instead the first available space for this content to demand the attention it never received. The result is the specific experience of trying to sleep while the mind churns through everything it did not have time to engage with during the day. The replaying of the difficult conversation. The rehearsing of the alternative responses. The cycling through the anxiety about the unresolved tension. The mental revisiting of the moment of failure or embarrassment or loss that was bypassed in the day's continuing demands. This churning is not malfunction. It is the mind doing the processing it needed to do. But it is doing it in the specific conditions, the sleep that should be rest being converted into processing time, that prevent both the genuine processing and the genuine rest from happening effectively. Chronic rumination patterns. Beyond the specific content of the day, many people carry habitual rumination patterns that are largely independent of what the particular day produced. The chronic return to specific past events that are replayed with specific emotional charge regardless of how long ago they occurred. The chronic anticipatory anxiety about specific future scenarios that are rehearsed in detail regardless of how uncertain their occurrence is. These rumination patterns are the mind's habitual activity in the absence of directed attention. They are what the mind does when it is not engaged with anything specific, when the external demands that occupied it during the day are no longer present and the specific, directed, deliberate engagement with the present moment that the Stoic practice cultivates has not been developed. The person whose mind, in the absence of direction, defaults to rumination will experience the night as an extended opportunity for rumination. Because the night provides exactly the conditions that rumination requires, the absence of external demands, the quiet, the darkness, the removal of the social and professional stimulation that partially interrupts the rumination during the day. The physiological state of chronic stress activation. The body cannot distinguish between genuine threat and vividly imagined threat. And the mind that spends its evenings engaging with unprocessed emotional content and chronic rumination patterns is providing the body with a continuous supply of vividly imagined threat in exactly the form that the body's threat response system was designed to activate around. The result is the specific physiological state of chronic low-grade activation, the elevated heart rate, the shallow rapid breathing, the specific muscular tension, the maintained cortisol levels, that is specifically incompatible with the descent into the deep sleep stages where genuine restoration occurs. The body in chronic stress activation is preparing for threat management, not for rest. Its systems are oriented toward vigilance and readiness. And the sleep architecture that vigilance produces, lighter, more frequently disrupted, less time in the deep stages where the genuine healing work happens, is not the sleep that the mind and body require for genuine restoration. The absence of a genuine transition from day to night. Most people in the modern world make no deliberate transition between the waking state and the sleeping one. They continue their waking activities, screens, stimulation, engagement with the content of the day, until the point at which they lie down and attempt to sleep. And then they discover that the waking state, with its specific neurological activation and its specific content engagement, does not transition immediately and automatically into the sleeping state simply because the body has assumed the horizontal position. The waking state requires specific physiological and neurological changes to become the sleeping state. And these changes require time and the specific conditions that support them: the gradual reduction in light exposure, the gradual reduction in cognitive engagement, the gradual decrease in body temperature, the gradual slowing of the interior that genuine transition to sleep requires. The absence of a genuine transition period, the abrupt attempt to switch from full waking engagement to sleep, is one of the most consistently underestimated contributors to sleep difficulty. And it is one of the most immediately and practically addressable through the specific practices we are about to explore. The Stoic evening practices, the complete system for preparing the mind for genuine healing sleep. The Stoics developed a comprehensive system of evening practices that, taken together, constitute the most sophisticated available preparation of the interior for genuine restorative sleep. Each practice addresses a specific obstacle. Each one enables a specific dimension of the healing that the sleeping mind is designed to perform. And together, they constitute what might be called the complete Stoic evening ritual, not as rigid protocol but as the genuine interior work that the genuine healing requires. The practice of honest daily completion, the evening examination. The foundation of everything else is the practice that Seneca described as the most important discipline of the evening, the honest, patient, fair review of the day before releasing it into the night. This practice is not the cataloging of failures for the purpose of self-punishment. It is not the inflation of successes for the purpose of self-congratulation. It is the honest, complete, balanced examination of the actual day, what actually happened, how you actually responded, where the responses honored the person you are working to become and where they did not, conducted with the specific purpose of genuinely completing what the day requires and releasing it into the past where it belongs. The examination has a specific structure that Seneca himself described. You begin with the honest acknowledgement of what did not go well. Not with harshness. With the specific honest clarity of someone who cares enough about their own development to see what needs seeing. Where was patience insufficient? Where was the response reactive rather than chosen? Where did the honest thing defer to the comfortable one? Where did the commitment give way to the convenient alternative? These questions produce uncomfortable answers on days when the answers are honest. And the discomfort is not the problem. It is the point. Because the discomfort of honest evening examination is infinitely preferable to the discomfort of the churning, ruminating night that the avoidance of honest examination produces. The examination converts the unprocessed content of the day's imperfections into specific, actionable information about where tomorrow's practice needs more deliberate attention. And information, specifically identified and honestly received, does not need to continue circling in the mind throughout the night. It has been received. It has been processed. It can be set down. Then the honest acknowledgement of what went well. Not inflation. Honest recognition. Where was the practice genuinely honored? Where was the difficult thing chosen when the comfortable alternative was available? Where was patience expressed when the reactive response was tempting? Where was genuine presence brought to the moment that deserved it? This recognition is not vanity. It is the honest accounting of progress. Of evidence that the practice is producing something real. And this evidence, honestly received and genuinely felt, produces the specific interior satisfaction of someone who has lived the day rather than merely survived it. The examination concludes with the deliberate, specific release of the day into the past. Not into forgetting. Into completion. The day has given everything it has to give. Its failures have been honestly acknowledged and converted into information. Its successes have been honestly recognized and received. It is finished. Complete. Ready to be released with genuine completeness rather than carried forward as unfinished business into the night that follows. This release is not automatic. It is a specific interior act, the deliberate, genuine, conscious choosing to let the day be over. To treat what happened as genuinely in the past. To release the continuing engagement with it that the mind would otherwise maintain through the night. When this release is genuine, when the examination has been honest enough and complete enough that the release is real rather than merely attempted, the specific quality of the interior that remains is fundamentally different from what the night would otherwise encounter. The unprocessed content has been processed. The unresolved tension has been honestly examined, even if not resolved. The unacknowledged difficulty has been acknowledged. The day is genuinely over. And the mind, entering sleep without the accumulated weight of an unfinished day, can do what the sleeping mind is designed to do. It can heal. The practice of releasing what cannot be resolved tonight. Some of what the day produces cannot be genuinely resolved in a single evening's examination. The ongoing conflict that will take weeks to address. The significant uncertainty whose resolution genuinely requires the passage of time and the arrival of information not yet available. The grief of genuine loss that is not completed by a single evening's honest acknowledgement. These things, the genuinely unresolvable, the genuinely ongoing, the genuinely requiring more than tonight's examination can provide, present a specific challenge for the evening practice. Because the honest examination reveals them as genuinely unresolved. And the genuinely unresolved, unless specifically addressed in its relationship to the night, will continue to demand the engagement that genuine resolution requires even in the hours of sleep. The Stoic practice for this specific challenge is the practice of what might be called principled incompletion. The deliberate, honest acknowledgement that this specific thing is not resolvable tonight. That tonight's contribution to its resolution is the honest acknowledgement of what it is and where it currently stands. That further engagement tonight will not produce resolution but will produce exhaustion. And that the truest expression of genuine care about its resolution is the preservation of the interior resources, the rest, the repair, the morning clarity, that tomorrow's engagement with it will require. This is not avoidance. It is the specific wisdom of knowing when continued engagement is genuinely counterproductive. When the mind that has been running all day needs to stop running not in order to abandon what it was running toward but in order to have the genuine capacity to run toward it well tomorrow. The practice involves a specific interior statement, made honestly to yourself in the genuine recognition of what it means, that this thing is being set down for tonight. Not forgotten. Not abandoned. Set down. With the specific intention of returning to it from the rested, restored, morning mind that will engage with it more productively than the exhausted evening one. The practice of gratitude as interior recalibration. The mind that has spent the day encountering difficulty, that has navigated the genuinely challenging, processed the genuinely painful, engaged with the genuinely demanding, arrives at the evening in a specific interior condition. The condition of a person who has been primarily engaged with what is difficult and who has, in consequence, been primarily attending to what is difficult. This attending is appropriate and necessary during the day. The difficult things require the attention they receive. But the specifically skewed attention that genuine difficulty requires, the orientation toward what is wrong, what is threatening, what needs to be addressed and managed and resolved, is not an appropriate orientation for the hours of healing sleep. Because it maintains the specific physiological activation that healing sleep requires the reduction of. The Stoic practice of genuine gratitude, not the listed, protocol-driven gratitude of someone following a wellness program but the specifically felt, genuinely present recognition of what is actually here, performs a specific function in the preparation for healing sleep. It recalibrates the interior from the skewed orientation toward difficulty to the more balanced orientation that includes what is genuinely present and genuinely good. Not denying the difficulty. Not pretending the challenges of the day were not real. But insisting, with genuine honesty, on the complete accounting that includes what the difficulty orientation was preventing from being seen. The practice involves sitting quietly in the evening with the specific intention of genuinely noticing what is actually present that is genuinely worth noticing. Not from a list of categories that the protocol suggests. From the honest, present engagement with the actual contents of the actual life. The person who is actually here. The relationship that is actually present. The capacity that is actually functioning. The specific experience of this evening, the quiet, the darkness coming, the particular texture of this specific moment, that is actually happening and actually worth being here for. This genuine noticing produces a specific physiological response. Not the stress response that the day's difficulty maintained. The specific response of genuine ease, the parasympathetic activation, the slowing of heart rate and breath, the reduction of cortisol, the specific settling of the body into the physiological conditions that genuine restorative sleep requires. This is not relaxation technique. It is the genuine interior recalibration that the honest, practiced recognition of what is genuinely present produces. And it produces genuine physiological change because the body responds to the genuine interior state as much as it responds to the genuine external circumstance. The practice of physical preparation as interior transition. The body and the mind are in continuous mutual influence. What the body does affects what the mind experiences. And the specific physical practices of the evening, the deliberate physical transition from the activation of the waking day to the genuine settling of the sleeping night, are themselves practices of genuine interior preparation. The Stoics understood this connection. They wrote about the relationship between the care of the body and the quality of the mind's rest with the specific understanding of people who had tested the relationship in direct experience. Seneca's descriptions of his own evening practices include the specific attention to the physical conditions that support genuine mental rest, the quiet, the gradual reduction of stimulation, the specific physical practices of preparation for sleep, as integral parts of the interior preparation rather than as separate practical concerns. The specific practice is the deliberate, gradual, conscious transition of the body from the activated state of the waking day to the genuinely settled state that sleep requires. Not the abrupt attempt to switch from full activation to sleep. The specific, patient, physiologically informed transition that gives the body the time and the conditions it needs to make the neurological changes that genuine restorative sleep requires. This includes the reduction of light exposure in the hours before sleep, not because light in the environment prevents sleep through simple physical interference but because the specific light wavelengths that modern screens emit interfere with the neurological signaling that triggers the body's genuine sleep preparation. It includes the gradual reduction of cognitive engagement, the specific movement away from the active problem-solving and content engagement of the waking day toward the quieter, more receptive interior state that the transition to genuine sleep requires. Not because thinking is harmful, but because the specific high-intensity cognitive engagement of the modern waking day maintains the neurological activation state that is incompatible with the descent into deep restorative sleep. It includes the specific physical practices, the breath, the deliberate progressive relaxation of the body's tension, the gradual slowing of the physical, that are not rituals of relaxation but genuine physiological preparation for the specific neurological state that healing sleep requires. The practice of setting the interior for the night. The final practice of the evening, the one that directly precedes the lying down, is the specific, deliberate setting of the interior for what the night will do. This is not prayer in any formal sense. It is not visualization in the popular sense. It is the honest, specific, genuine interior statement to yourself of what you are bringing to the night and what you are trusting the night to provide. What you are bringing, the day, genuinely completed. The examination, genuinely conducted. The gratitude, genuinely felt. The unresolvable, genuinely set down. The body, genuinely prepared. The interior, as genuinely settled as the honest practice of the evening has been able to make it. What you are trusting the night to provide, the rest that the day cannot give. The repair that only the sleeping mind can perform. The processing of what has been genuinely brought, with genuine completeness, to the threshold of the night. The healing that happens in the darkness while the conscious mind is absent and the deeper mind is doing its most fundamental work. This trust is not passive. It is the active, specific, deliberate confidence of a person who has prepared genuinely and who understands what genuine preparation enables. Who knows, from the Stoic philosophy and from the science and from the direct experience of what genuine evening preparation produces, that the mind brought to sleep in genuine settled completeness will use the sleeping hours for what the sleeping hours are designed for. Genuine healing. Genuine repair. Genuine processing of what the waking day has accumulated. Genuine preparation of the interior for the waking day that will follow. This is the gift of the Stoic evening practice. Not the elimination of difficulty from the waking day. Not the prevention of the accumulated weight that genuine living produces. But the genuine, practiced, philosophically grounded preparation of the interior for the healing that only the sleeping mind can perform. And the healing, performed consistently in the sleeping mind that is consistently brought to sleep in genuine settled completeness, accumulates over time into the specific quality of a person who wakes genuinely rested. Who is genuinely restored. Who meets the day with the full interior resources of someone whose nights have been genuinely healing rather than merely enduring. What genuine healing sleep produces, the compounding restoration. The person who consistently brings a genuinely prepared interior to sleep, who practices the evening disciplines with genuine consistency over genuine time, experiences a transformation in the quality of their waking life that no other single practice can produce to the same degree. The emotional processing that occurs in genuinely restorative sleep accumulates. The specific capacity to meet new difficulty without being overwhelmed by the accumulated weight of unprocessed previous difficulty, this capacity increases with every night of genuine healing sleep. Because the previous difficulty was actually processed rather than merely survived. Was genuinely integrated rather than merely pushed through. Was metabolized by the sleeping mind in the specific neurochemical environment that genuine metabolization requires. The cognitive clarity that genuine restorative sleep produces compounds. The specific quality of thinking that well-rested people experience, the access to creative connections, the ease of nuanced consideration, the specific capacity for the genuine insight that exhausted thinking cannot produce, this quality is not the simple result of the absence of fatigue. It is the specific product of the deep sleep stages where the mind consolidates the learning and the experience of the previous day, where the connections between disparate pieces of experience are made in the specific neurological context that connection requires, where the creative synthesis that genuine insight requires is performed. The relational quality of the well-rested person compounds. Because the person who has genuinely processed their own accumulated difficulty during sleep arrives at the morning with the genuine interior space for the people and the circumstances of the new day. They are not already full, already occupied by yesterday's unprocessed content, when the morning brings its own people and its own requirements. They are genuinely available. Genuinely present. Genuinely capable of the specific quality of attention and care that genuine relationship requires. Daniel discovered all of this. Not suddenly. Gradually, over the weeks and months after he began the practice that the dying patient had described. Not because the practice was immediately natural or immediately effective. But because the consistent, genuine, daily engagement with the evening disciplines, the honest examination, the release, the gratitude, the physical preparation, the setting of the interior, gradually produced the specific interior conditions that genuine healing sleep required. And the genuine healing sleep produced, over time, the specific transformation in the quality of his waking life that no clinical protocol had been able to provide. Not because the protocols were wrong. But because they had been addressing the external conditions of sleep while the problem was located in the interior conditions of the person who came to sleep. He began dreaming again. And the dreaming, the specific, vivid, richly textured dreaming of the mind doing its deepest processing work, was the evidence of what the genuine interior preparation was enabling. Not the content of the dreams. The quality of the processing they represented. He was healing. In the darkness. While he slept. As the human mind was designed to heal. When the person who carries it to sleep has done the genuine work of preparing it to receive what the darkness has always been capable of offering. The beginning of tonight's practice. Tonight, before you lie down, do something different from what you have been doing. Not dramatically different. Genuinely different. The specific, small, honest difference that the genuine practice requires. Spend time, not long time, genuine time, with the honest examination of the day. What happened? How you responded. Where the practice was honored and where it was not. Extract the information that the honest examination provides. Set it down as information, not punishment. Release the day with the specific completeness that honest examination makes possible. Then the genuine release of what cannot be resolved tonight. Named specifically. Set down deliberately. With the genuine intention of returning to it rested. Then the genuine gratitude. Not listed. Felt. The specific, present recognition of what is actually here that is actually worth being here for. Then the physical preparation. The gradual, patient, genuine transition of the body from the activation of the day to the settled readiness of the night. And then the setting of the interior. The honest, genuine, specific acknowledgement of what you are bringing to the night and what you are trusting the night to provide. And then the lying down. Not with the expectation of immediate perfect sleep. With the genuine confidence that the interior you are bringing, prepared with genuine honesty through genuine practice, is capable of receiving what the night has always been offering. The healing that happens in the darkness. The work that only the sleeping mind can do. The restoration that genuinely prepared interior genuinely enables. Let the night do what the night was designed to do. You have done your part. Subscribe to Stoic Ascension right now. Turn on your notifications. Every single video on this channel is built for exactly this depth of genuine philosophical understanding and this level of practically grounded application. The philosophy, the neuroscience, and the complete practical system for bringing the interior conditions that genuine healing sleep requires. What comes after this builds directly on everything you just heard. Every video goes deeper. Every video takes the practice further into the dimensions of a genuinely and deliberately built life. Daniel dreamed again after 3 years of gray exhaustion. Not because the clinical protocols finally worked. Because a dying man told him to put the day down before he lay down. And because the Stoics had been teaching that specific wisdom for 2,000 years. Tonight, put the day down. Genuinely. Honestly. Completely. And let the darkness do what the darkness has always been capable of. Heal you.